It's Wednesday, October 28th. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the Blancolirio channel, and we're broadcasting here from the training hotel in Dallas, Texas, getting some Boeing 777 international training done in the simulator before waiting for IOE, initial operating experience, next month on the 777. Meanwhile, general aviation continues its dismal 2020 accident statistics this year as the weather here in Texas has changed from summer to winter type conditions rather quickly, and we are now beginning to see already we've had 2 fatal weather-related general aviation accidents here in the Texas area. One, a Grumman cheetah in Homewood, Texas, I believe it was, which appears to be a classic case of spatial disorientation in the weather. And second, the one we're going to talk about today, the loss of the Cessna Centurion in Lubbock, Texas, in freezing, drizzle, or icing conditions. This accident was captured by ATC Real Audio and assembled by our friend Victor at VASAviation and has lots of teachable moments in it. Let's check it out. If you're a VFR pilot caught in IMC conditions in the weather, you are an emergency aircraft. You need to declare an emergency and get yourself out of those conditions as soon as possible. If you are in a light aircraft without icing capability, even if you're instrument rating, and you get caught in icing conditions, you are an instant emergency aircraft. You need to declare that emergency and get out of those conditions as soon as possible. Even if you have de-icing equipment and are caught in freezing precipitation, you are an emergency aircraft and need to get out of those conditions as soon as possible. Freezing precipitation can easily overwhelm de-icing equipment on most all light aircraft. Finally, if you are an instrument-rated pilot caught in icing conditions or are flight planning a flight through the mountains where the freezing level is below the IFR-MEA, in other words, if the freezing level is down below safe distance from the terrain, you have sealed your fate. Most pilots have some sort of a story involving freezing precipitation. I grew up on the West Coast and didn't have a lot of experience with this kind of weather phenomenon. In fact, it wasn't until I was a captain in the C-141 aircraft for the Air Force, a very young 29-year-old aircraft commander, where we took one of my first missions, as they called them, was to come out here to Texas to what was then the, I believe, Brooks Army Airfield Air Base, landed in conditions similar to this, and was scheduled to turn around and take off again, and we looked at the schedule, and the weather had cooled off to the point where they were expecting freezing drizzle in the forecast. So I didn't have much experience with this. I called back to the squadron and I said, hey, we got freezing drizzle in this precipitation. What do you guys think? And everybody at the squadron said, do not take off under any circumstances. Wait until the weather changes. Well, we waited for days. It seemed like we waited for a week for this slow-moving weather system to get out of the way before we could continue on with our way safely. And that was in a C-141 with full de-icing capability. The problem with freezing precipitation, freezing drizzle, is that it sticks to your airframe like frozen snot on a glass doorknob. And it's not so much the weight of the clear ice or the ice that accumulates on the airframe, it's the disruption of airflow over the wing. That disruption of airflow greatly alters the airfoil of the wing. It greatly changes the critical angle of attack, increasing your stall speed. Now let's look at this accident and start first by decoding the METAR, or the current weather at Lubbock at the time. METAR stands for Meteorological Terminal Aviation Routine Weather Report. It's loosely translated from French, as a lot of the aviation terms come from the French language. Thus, so do the abbreviations. METAR KLBB Lubbock 262053Z. That's 26 October at 2053Z, which translates, I believe, to about 3:53 p.m. local time on the 26th of October. 020 at 15 G21. That's the winds are 020 at 15, gusting to 21 knots. So a good strong wind out of the northeast. 4 statute miles of visibility. This next thing is the no-go item. Minus FZDZ. What does that mean? Light freezing drizzle, freezing precipitation. That's what will kill you. BR, that's a French translated abbreviation for mist. Overcast at 700 feet. Not too bad for instrument conditions. What are the minimums for the approach here? For the approach that he was cleared for his category of aircraft, it looks like 200-foot ceiling, 3/4 mile visibility. Temperature minus 0.4, dew point minus 0.5 degrees Celsius. When the temperature and dew point are within 2 degrees of each other, you're going to get fog. That's why you see mist here in the METAR. Altimeter 3016, remark A02. This is an automatic METAR report from a station that has precipitation recording capability. Sea level pressure of 1022.7. P000, so no precipitation in the last 3 hours. No, just a trace of precipitation. Now let's roll the tape. The audio tape.
Here in 22 Tango, 9.5 miles from the runway threshold. Turn left heading 020. Maintain 5,200 till south for the final approach course. Cleared on at Yankee runway 35 left approach.
Can we heading again, please?
Left heading 020.
Okay, stop the tape right there. Lots of things. First off, the pilot says, say the heading again, and right away you can tell that the pilot is way behind the aircraft. He's not properly set up for the approach. He's not even clear of which approach we're talking about here. And I'm going to give the controller some heat on this also. This is an RNAV approach, and though you can give an aircraft vectors to final, as long as you give them vectors, I believe it's 3 miles out from the final approach fix, I would have insisted that the controller give me direct to one of these initial approach fixes on the instrument approach. It is much easier to set up your approach on your aircraft if you can program it, if you've got an autopilot, which I believe this pilot did, to set it up to go directly to an initial approach fix and then fly the points on into the approach. Asking this pilot, who you can tell is distressed in this situation, to intercept a pretty short vector to final on an approach that he's not really clear on is not doing him any favors.
20. That was the 17 right approach, correct?
No, 35 left. Yeah, 35 left approach. The RNAV Yankee 35 left.
Okay, the pilot's completely turned around here in the weather, orientation-wise. He thinks he's landing to the south on 17 right, and he's getting vectors to the 35 left approach, landing to the north. Clearly confused and distressed. Which brings up the question, what's this pilot's rating? Is he truly instrument rated, and is he current and qualified instrument rated pilot?
Can you tell me what my next, this is 2 Tango, can you tell me what my next would be?
Can you tell me what the next fix will be? He's taking these vectors on in, and he's trying to get his GPS program to get on the approach, but he's just not set up for the approach. He doesn't even know what the next fix is out in front of him to set up his GPS to shoot this RNAV GPS approach. So he needs to take another whack at it. And this, in these weather conditions, staying aloft in freezing drizzle is what will eventually get you, even if it's light freezing drizzle. Had this pilot been squared away and ready to fly this approach straight on in, he would have made it the first time around. Had this pilot had a second pilot on board the aircraft that was current and qualified and could help him with these procedures, he would have made it.
Number 2 Tango, you're coming up towards Ufasi, that's the final approach 6, and you are cleared for the RNAV Yankee 35 left approach once established.
So once again, they're vectoring him pretty close to the final approach fix, not doing this pilot any particular favors. There is other air traffic coming into the Lubbock airport, and so the air traffic controllers need to keep things moving.
Tango, you're coming up towards Ufasi, that's the final approach 6, and you are cleared for the RNAV Yankee 35 left approach once established.
Roger, I'm getting...
Okay, I'm getting, and then he doesn't finish it. He's getting what? You can tell he's under distress. Is he getting disoriented? Is he not getting on course for the approach? Or is he getting icing? Is he icing up?
Could you just give me vectors, please?
He's finally throwing up his hands and saying, look, just give me vectors. Get me out of here. This is where he in hindsight, it would have been better to just get the vectors direct to one of those IAFs, initial approach fixes, to begin this approach. Now he's got to go around and try this all over again and accumulate more ice in the process.
Yankee, do you want me to just break you off and bring you back around for it again? Because you're going through on the other side kind of close.
That'd be fine.
22 Yankee, cancel approach clearance, turn right heading 090 and maintain 5,200.
090.
So he's going to break him off the approach, break him off to the right, take him out to the east, and box him around, as we've discussed before, radar vector him around back for another shot at the final approach course.
Coach, could you give me the Mummy
Good call.
intersection?
Number 22 Yankee, Roger, I'll continue out in the 090 and I'll get you a Mummy. You want to join at a Mummy is what you're saying?
That's correct.
Right, so I'll take you past the Mummy and give you a right turn back to it to get you on the approach.
All right,
that's what should have been done in the first case. Just go direct to one of the initial approach fixes and fly the approach from there. He's beaming off to the east, 5,300 feet. He's holding his altitude well.
Tango, turn right direct to Mummy.
Right direct to Mummy.
Turn 22 Tango, crossing Mummy, that's 5,200. Cleared on F Yankee, runway 35 left approach.
Cleared for RNAV 35 left approach.
Now hopefully he's got it all squared away in the cockpit, 5,200 feet, which by the way is the MSA, min safe altitude, until established.
22 Tango, are you experiencing any icing?
That's affirmative.
What kind?
Freezing rain.
There it is, freezing rain. He's experiencing icing. Now the controller's going to prompt him. The controller needs to get this information to all the other aircraft out there. So what seems like an overloading amount of questions to this pilot, it's important information that the controller get from this pilot as a PIREP, a pilot report, to report to all the other aircraft in the area.
Freezing rain, and what's the outside air temperature?
That air temperature looks like it's 10 degrees Celsius.
Plus 10 degrees Celsius. Freezing precipitation, freezing conditions are considered occurring in visible moisture between 0 and a positive 10 degrees Celsius. And this is the classic condition for freezing precipitation. Coming down from colder air aloft, hitting this warmer air in a supercooled condition, and then freezing on contact with your airframe at plus 10 degrees Celsius.
Negative 10 or positive 10?
He's too busy. Just leave him alone at this point.
Pressure shut down 7. We had icing pickup on departure with negative 3C, and it's now submade. We'll have 7,000.
6. Copy, negative 3 with freezing rain.
April, on departure, first 2,000 feet.
Yes.
Once one pilot fesses up, everybody else begins to pipe in as to what the actual conditions already are, because these sort of weather reports can impact operations and stop certain operations. Certainly shouldn't be up there flying in a single engine aircraft without de-icing equipment.
Decision 807 Bravo Whiskey, level the post. Send post course to maintain 900,000, proceed direct to Ogus.
See, the King Air gets direct to Ogus.
9,000 direct Ogus.
He gets direct to the initial approach
7
fix.
Bravo Whiskey has reports of freezing rain the first 2,000 feet above the ground. Outside air temperature -3.
Okay. How's the brake check? Pretty good.
He wants to know about the braking
Point
condition of the
35 left,
runway.
RCC is 665, now is at 1847 so
665 on the RCC. This RCC report, runway condition report, doesn't really matter to the pilot in the Cessna Centurion. The runway's 11,000 feet long. The King Air pilot, bigger, faster aircraft that are going to require more runway, do concern themselves, especially in icy conditions. An RCC of 6 means a dry runway. An RCC of 5 means it's wet. So the three numbers represents the touchdown area, midfield, and the rollout area, the far end of the runway. So it's dry, dry, wet. Good conditions, pretty good conditions overall.
22 Tango, contact tower 120.5.
120.5.
Southwest 1117, need you to pull back on the throttle a little bit. You're following Cessna doing 70 knots on a 10-mile final.
Okay, we'll slow it up. Southwest 1117.
Okay, 70 knots on a 2-mile final. Remember, again, that is ground speed. That's ground speed minus the 20 knots or so of headwind that he's experiencing, 70, 80, 90 knots. That's about right at this time.
Okay, we'll slow it up. Southwest 1117.
This is Centurion 9622 Tango with you.
Centurion 9622 Tango, Lubbock Tower, runway 35 left, clear to land, wind 030 at 17, gust 21.
Roger, clear to land.
He's cleared to land, but
Southwest
you
1117,
can hear the
turn
stress
left
in
heading
his voice.
220 vector for spacing. He's slowed down to 50 knots.
Okay, Southwest 1117, left 220.
Slowed down to 50 knots, 50 plus 20, 70 knots of airspeed. Yeah, he's slowing to approach speed kind of early here. One thing that's not clear in this accident, did this pilot have an autopilot? Was he using an autopilot through this whole procedure? Autopilots and icing do not mix well. An autopilot will hang on to an aircraft as long as it can until that aircraft gets on to a very heavily out of trim condition. As ice accumulates on an airframe with the autopilot on, you do not feel the change of handling characteristics of that aircraft with the autopilot on. The autopilot will continue to try to trim and make corrections and hang on to that aircraft with the autopilot on, until which case if the trim condition gets so bad, the autopilot clicks off suddenly, and you have got a real bucket of worms on your hands, and there's a good chance that the aircraft may be ready to stall right away.
Delta 967, contact 4 center 126.45.
2645, Airshaw 5967, good day.
Adios.
Centurion 22 Tango, turn right, heading 270.
Okay, so they're asking.
For Centurion 22 Tango, fly eastbound, climb and maintain 5,200.
So they're asking him to break off the approach once again, and it's unclear as to what has happened at this point.
West 1117, that aircraft had a autopilot issue. Cancel approach clearance. Maintain 6,000, turn left heading at 270, vector for resequence.
Okay, 6,000 feet, left 270, cancel approach clearance, Southwest 1117.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this guy just crashed or not.
So we don't know what happened there. There may be some missing bits of the audio tape. I don't know how the air traffic controller can assume an autopilot problem at this time. But regardless, they've lost radio contact and I believe a radar contact with the 210 at this point, and with the Southwest airliner right behind him. He's got to get the Southwest aircraft to break off the approach, and they're going to break off everybody off the approach to 35 left and change it around to the east runway. That would be runway 8.
Centurion 22 Tango, radar contact lost.
8, current wind 03015, gust 21.
Okay, runway 8, Southwest 1117.
Southwest 7 Bravo Whiskey, turn left heading 350, expect RNAV 8 approach.
Alright, you broke up. Say again for 7 Bravo Whiskey.
7 Bravo Whiskey, fly heading 350, expect the RNAV 8 approach now. I think we just had an aircraft crash.
Okay, 350, and we'll set up for the RNAV 8, 7 Bravo Whiskey.
Southwest 1117, turn right heading 290, vector for the RNAV 8.
Right, right 290 for the RNAV runway 8, Southwest 1117. Tower 840 to Quebec is ready, 35 left. You want me to do something else?
Yeah, I don't want you to take off 02 Quebec. I believe that's a Cirrus aircraft. There's I don't care if you got TKS, known icing capability on your Cirrus. There's no reason to be out there flying in these sort of conditions with freezing precipitation. Freezing precipitation can easily overwhelm your de-icing system or anti-icing system.
Hold short 35 left.
Hold short 0 Quebec. Alright, heading 290, 7 Bravo Whiskey.
I'm just keeping you guys away from that last target just in case he's still airborne.
Okay.
Yeah, the tower is not clear exactly what happened to
5404
the
and King Air 6 Kilo
22
Fox,
Tango,
expect
the
the RNAV
Cessna
8 approach.
6 Kilo Fox, we'll expect negative ELT on the north.
Roger.
So that's how that played out. There's lots to learn from that accident. Declare the emergency early. Don't accept vectors to final in an emergency for a RNAV approach. Take direct to initial approach fix. Be prepared and ready for the instrument approach, and get out of that icing condition as soon as possible. And don't go flying and mess around with this icing conditions with these types of aircraft. Thanks so much for your support of this channel. Thanks so much for your support over on Patreon that makes this content possible. See you here. Time to hit the sim.